All right, so it's come to my attention that the Rams have a terrible pass protection this year for a 37-year-old Matthew Stafford. And I want to know what's going on. So I took a deep dive into the film. I watched the film. I looked at metrics. And I think I have an idea. Before we get into it, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Also, be sure to follow me on all social media at JKBogan, including Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Kick, and Twitch. In addition to that, be sure to check out today's sponsor, Sleeper, because the NFL season is here, and it means you have a chance to 100 extra cash on daily fantasy football. You can pick on stats like touchdowns, passing yards, receiving yards, fantasy points, and more for up to 100x your payout on Sleeper. So get your picks right, and you could win big. If you use my code JKB, you'll get a $100 match on your first deposit. So be sure to check out the link in the description below. Use JKB and get a $100 match on your first deposit when you sign up today with Sleeper. All right, folks. So I want to dive right into it, not waste any time. Let's start off with Alec Jackson at left tackle. He's looked like the best on the offensive line, and it's really not remotely close. Alaric, despite missing every bit of the offseason program due to blood clots, still not amazing, but he has the valid excuse, and he only has given up 5 pressures, and he hasn't given up a sack in the 3 games. He's been by far the best player on the offensive line. You look at the left guard position, it's been an issue. Why? Well, Steve Avila was quite honestly looking like he was going back to his rookie self, and that's a good thing. His rookie year was very good. 16 pass protection reps, no sacks, no pressures, looked really good. I watched every 16 of them just recently. However, an ankle injury cost him the rest of the Texans game and forced him out for the last 2 weeks. I'm going to make this very clear. The Rams wouldn't just be better with him. They need him. Bo Limmer filled in and was absolutely horrendous in the first game in pass protection. And then the Rams went to Justin Diedish, who I thought was better, but still not great. Actually, so bad he was the 3rd worst pass protection grade among all guards in the league, according to PFF. And Bo Limmer is last in the league, and he has a grade of 0. Goose egg. Then you have center Coleman Shelton. He doesn't make it look pretty. He's not a big, bulky mauler, but I'll tell you, he's only given up 3 pressures in pass pro. And to be fair to Shelton, it doesn't help that the 2 guys next to him have been a complete revolving door at this point. I imagine that once Steve Avila does return and Kevin Dotson gets back to strength, which we're about to talk about, we're going to get the most out of Shelton. And I have more that I want to touch on Shelton, but I'll wait until after this point. So right guard, it's been an issue as well. Kevin Dotson also left the first game with an ankle injury, and then he played in game 2 and game 3. But the thing is, he left again in game 3 and was replaced by Bo Limmer. Dotson, I'm not convinced, I've said this, is not 100%. He's just not 100%. And that's okay. He'll get back to that. He's not there yet. Because of that, I believe he's struggling in pass protection. 6 pressures, no sacks allowed, mainly because Matthew Stafford was escaping a few of them. I'm sure we could all go back to the beginning of the game where, for whatever reason, they put 3 guys on 2. You leave Jalen Carter with a one-on-one matchup with Dotson. Jalen Carter wins. Stafford is somehow able to escape, throws one off to the, off into the flat. Kyron Williams makes the catch and then gets the first down to start the game. But think about it. That's a loss for Dotson. Just because it wasn't a sack doesn't mean Stafford didn't have to make some Herculean effort. And by the way, he got popped because of it. Right tackle Rob Havenstein has also looked a little shaky. He was banged up a little bit in camp, but he's given up 7 pressures and a sack at this point. There's a real chance Havenstein, who was reportedly considering retirement in the near future, is starting to reach a decline. However, I'm actually going to push back on this because I would argue he just had a really tough matchup against Danielle Hunter in week 1. It ballooned his pressures, which he gave up 4 in that game. And he's been playing alongside a revolving door at right guard as well and only allowed 3 pressures in the last 2 games, despite the fact it's been Bo Limmer and Kevin Dotson and not really knowing which one's going to be out there. I am not going to underestimate. I use this all the time. I'll bring it up again. Joe Barksdale, I believe, was a good right tackle for the St. Louis Rams. And unfortunately, what ended up happening is that Davin Joseph was at right guard. And because he was a turnstile, it really hurt. To be fair, Joseph was a good player, just later on in his career. It really hurt Joe Barksdale. So the Rams end up getting rid of him. He goes to the Chargers, ends up having a decent career there. But the point being is that the guy next to you can affect you. And I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, yeah, well, the guy has to just focus on control what you can control. That's easy for us to say. But offensive line, these guys work in unison. There's a big reason why this is one of the biggest team sport aspects of this game is the offensive line. And if you don't have a guy that is going to be in the right place at the right time, if you don't have that gel, if you don't have that continuity, it can mess you up. And that I do think that has happened with Rob Havenstein. But I will say this. I am a little confused why the Rams chose to go with Coleman Shelton when they anticipated running more 12 personnel this season. So much so, they've run it at the 11th highest clip in the league. They actually put him in the top 10 centers in terms of WAR. So I thought that was interesting in 2024. I think he's slightly underrated, if I'm being honest. I think he gets a little flack. I don't think he's the most, built center. I don't think he's the strongest. I don't think he's the most athletic. I think he's just a solid center, and his best is yet in front of him because once you have things shored up, health-wise, I think you're going to see him be able to play at a better level. But I once again can't stress enough how important it is for an offensive line to gel. Most of camp, it was DJ Humphries at left tackle or David Quesenberry in for the sideline, Alec Jackson. And now you have a revolving door at guard, like I mentioned, and anticipating, the struggle in the pass protection game. I get it, but I think that's going to simmer down over the course of the year. But the thing is, they have to establish some sort of bill of health. I mean, right now, it's just not great. It is also important to remember that while maybe the pressure numbers don't sound that bad to you, PFF does have the Rams at 11th in pass protection efficiency. But I have to be real here. It's also a lot to do with how quickly Matthew Stafford's getting rid of the football. Now, I said that in a prior video, 2.53 seconds. He's getting rid of the ball. He's getting rid of it very quickly, right? That's good for now, but the Rams won't be able to expand their playbook if this pass protection does not improve. All that said, here's my theory as to why the Rams offensive line is struggling, basically due to health. We're going to start off. Health is a big issue here, and it's why the offensive percent. I don't care what anyone says. He's not 100%. He could be next week. He could be the week after. He's not right now. So I think that is impacting, starting to show up. Bo Limmer and Justin Diedish can run block. There is no doubt about it. So do not say that they're trash because those guys can effectively run block. That said, in pass pro, they leave a lot to be desired. The tough matchups against the three good to, you could argue, great defensive fronts in the Eagles, Titans, and Texans, I do think have to be brought up here as well. Probably the toughest matchup you'll see all year in terms of edge defenders and Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. So that also probably led to a little bit of the struggling and also led to a little bit of the ballooning of the numbers. And lastly, I think the switch to 11th highest usage in terms of 12 personnel fronts, I think has had some sort of impact on weakening the pass protection. And here's why. So defenses often counter 12 personnel. They're going to keep their base formation out there. So what you're going to see are linebackers instead of DBs, which means you're going to have slower linebackers instead of quicker, lightning fast defensive backs. Now, this is a thing because offenses can now exploit the slower players in the passing game. However, if you're not using your tight ends, right, and the Rams aren't, I've made that clear, this strategy will backfire. And so I believe right now, the Rams aren't taking advantage of this. I do think there is an adjustment in 12 personnel, and it wouldn't be as big of an issue if they were actually utilizing the tight ends in the passing game. They're not. So it's making it easier on the defense. And basically, now you have the size advantage to shed blocks and pressure the quarterback, and that is what we're seeing. So the Rams simply need to use the tight end more, keep the defenses honest. It's actually hurting all over the offense, not just pass protection. But the last thing I will say, to be fair to these guys that go out there every single day and play one of the toughest positions in all football, the last thing that should be explained is that while these guys may struggle in pass protection right now, the run blocking is fantastic. And what I mean by that is PFF has him graded second in the league in run blocking, and the eye test watching the film would have you believe that to be the case. So while Limmer and Diedish, as I mentioned, are struggling in pass pro, and they're not good right now, it's important to remember that they're not just bad players all across the board. They very much have a role in the run game. The Rams have a good run game right now. They might have to lean on it more than maybe they wanted to. They might have to take a step back until this pass protection gets better. And that, to me, is part of making adjustments. So hopefully Sean McVay makes those for this Sunday against the Colts, because this is going to be a tight one. I do expect when it's all said and done, this pass protection is going to thrive in the second half of the season, but we'll find out. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section.